So let's now explore what a generic meditation practice looks like, and let's evaluate how that tends to change the activity of these neural circuits in the brain and body. And then from there, we can split the conversation into a couple of different bins. That is, meditation practices that are ideal for enhancing focus, meditation practices that are ideal for improving mood, meditation practices that are ideal for improving sleep, and meditation practices that, believe it or not, benefit all of those things in one fell swoop. Okay, so what happens during a meditation practice at the neural level? In order to answer that question, we are going to be scientists. That means you and I are going to be scientists now. We are going to break down a practice into its different component parts and address what we know for sure about the brain activation states that occur with those different component parts. In order to do that, let's use a somewhat generic form of meditation, but it's generic and pretty far-reaching, because I would say that for most people, about 75%, let's say, a meditation practice is going to involve stopping, meaning getting out of motion, sitting or lying down, and in most cases, closing one's eyes, although it is absolutely not required to close one's eyes during meditation. There are many forms of meditation that are done eyes open. But for most people, it's going to involve stopping our movement, that is, not ambulating, not walking or running, so seated or lying down with eyes closed. When we do that, meaning when we sit or lie down and close our eyes, as trivial as that shift might sound to you, it actually is a profound shift in the way that your brain and other neural circuits in your body function, for the following reason. When we close our eyes, we shut down a major avenue of what's called exteroception. What do I mean by exteroception? Well, very briefly, we are sensing things on our body and in our body all the time. We are also sensing things from outside of us all the time. So these could be sights or sounds, touch on our body, sensations with inside our body, etc. Now, sensation is distinct from what we call perception. Perception is, put simply, the sensations that we happen to be paying attention to. So at any given moment, you are sensing many, many things. There are sound waves hitting your ears. There are pressure receptors on the bottoms of your feet sensing your shoes or your sandals or the floor, etc. But you're not perceiving them until you place your attention on them. Now, the way perception works is that you have so-called spotlights of attention. You can't perceive everything all at once. Every sound, every sight, every touch. That would be overwhelming. In fact, that would be terrible. Rather, you have spotlights of perception that can either be very narrow. So for instance, you could focus all of your perception right now on your big toe of your right foot and really pour all of your awareness, your attention, into what you're perceiving there, what it feels like, if there's tingling or pressure, heat or cold, etc. Or you can broaden that spotlight to include both feet or all your toes on both feet, and then your legs and your whole body or the entire room. Perception is like a spotlight, and I should mention there are very good data that we can split our attention into two, but probably not more than two spotlights. And we can make those spotlights of perception either very broad and diffuse or very narrow. You can practice this now if you like. You can pick a spot on the wall away from you anywhere, or if you're driving, you can look at some location and you can focus intensely on one small location. For instance, a tree in the horizon, or a person on the street, or any number of different things outside of you. Or you can broaden that spotlight to include the entire scene at once. You can also focus a spotlight of perception on your body, say on the left upper portion of your chest. And of course, you can focus on the left upper portion of your chest and something outside of you. You can split your attention between those two perceptual spotlights. It's very hard, although not impossible, to have three perceptual spotlights. But most people can split to 2 points of attention or perception pretty easily. The other thing that most people can do pretty easily is merge those two spotlights, or rather to have just one spotlight of attention. So you don't always have to have two spotlights of attention on. And here I'm using the word attention and perception interchangeably. But you could, for instance, have 2 points of attention. So you're talking to somebody and you're paying attention to whether or not somebody's walking in the door or not. So that's 2. Or you could be completely focused on the person you're talking to. Or you could be completely focused on the stomach ache or the great sensation of hunger that you have in your belly while talking to somebody. In fact, you're not even listening to what they're saying at all. Okay, so you have 2 spotlights of perception. You can split them or merge them into one. And this is very important. Those spotlights of perception can intensify or dim. And there I'm using analogy. What I mean by that is your perception of what's happening within those spotlights can be very, very high acuity. That is, you can register very fine changes in detail, like tingling on one side of your big toe of your right foot versus the other. Or it can be somewhat more diffuse. You're just thinking about your whole toe, which in that case seems like a small area. But the point is that you can consciously adjust the acuity, that is the fineness of your perception. All of this is under your power because of the incredible ability of a brain structure whose name you now understand and know, which is the left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Although there are other areas of your brain involved as well, your ability to direct your attention to specific things in your environment or within your body, or to split those points of attention or merge them or dial up the intensity of how closely you're paying attention to every little shift or ripple and change in sensation there, or to kind of dissociate, if you will, for lack of a better word, to disengage from that perception. All of that is under control because of your ability to engage this area that we call the prefrontal cortex, and in particular, the left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex.